All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Debbie and Dan back with another podcast, episode 4, Action-Based Leaders. Still going through the book. If your team sucks, find out why. Debbie, welcome back. Super excited. This is an awesome one.
Yes, I must say this is one of my most favorite chapters. As I say that about everyone, right?
It just gets better and better as you go, though. But this one
Absolutely.
is cool. This one is creating a culture of accountability. Now, since I've met you, you've talked about accountability as something completely different. You talk about it almost as if it's a person, not just like a person being accountable or a task or something that you check off, but there's like, it's like a thing. It's like something that you do that you all around it. One, let's walk me through your definition of what is accountability.
It's funny you say that and you notice that it's a thing because I learned years ago, when you personify something, you can actually interact with it. It's such a rich way. So even when it comes to those more negative or catabolic feelings, right? If you're frustrated and you can create it a thing, we can like literally fire it and assign it another position, right? So it's that same mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes it one total sense. It just kind of brings a different element to it. I like what you just said around the moving it in position or firing it or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Creating a new position for it or eliminating its position, however you
Yeah.
want to word it. So I've done that many, many a time. So here's what happened with accountability for me. The word accountability, you know how I do the red, green,
Yep.
accountability for me. If you were to say, is accountability a red or a green word? It's actually very red to me. And so but yet it's a part of everything that we do with action-based leaders, right? Action-based leaders know how to get action, accountability, and follow-up. So the reality is we all live with some form of accountability, but the reason why it's red for me goes all the way back to years ago. As a child, I was accountable, right, to get stuff done, and it was all related to task, or I felt shamed about it, or shame on you if you don't get it done. So it just always came from a very negative place for me. However, when you become a leader, what do you need? Like, meaning leading a team, you need a team that is what?
Accountable.
Accountable, because they got to get stuff done, right?
Yep.
So long before I did the career that I did now, I was in sales, and guess what? Worked with sales teams. We all had to be accountable.
You're
So,
accountable to your number. Yeah.
into your part. And so everything, I don't even want to say it shifted and changed then. It was still very red, but there was a responsibility to it. So then I come into this career in my life, this career finds me, and I really start looking at accountability going, what is it? What is it about this word? And truly, it's our own trigger if it's red. Now, what can we do to make accountability green? And that is where the whole basis of this chapter is, because here's the saying: if your team is not accountable to getting things done, to meeting the goal, meeting the initiatives, or whatever that is, the question that you need to be asking is, what within my leadership gives them permission to not be accountable? It does come back to you as a leader. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, how different would a team engage with you as their team leader if you literally lived from the energy that says, hey, Dan, I am accountable to you for your success. I am here for you. I am truly going to be present for you. I'm showing up for you. And I was truly there giving you every single thing that you need to be successful. What type of relationship would we have then?
Well, it would be completely different. To me, I see that as complete growth, right? In every organization, because most times the leaders aren't being accountable. They're just trying to crack the whip and get the most out of their
Yep.
team as possible.
And that's it. And that has been my journey with the word accountability. It was and you've been with me across the board. Every team that I ever speak with is accountability, red or green. What color comes up the most when we
It's
ask?
always red. It's
It's
always
always
red.
red. Very rarely you're going to have someone do green, right? So I was
Right.
at this one company comes up green, and she even had a surprise on her face that everybody there was so much red in the room. And I said, "All right, so what makes it green for you?" Come to find out, when we got into her story, she was a past retired pro sports was her past before she started working with this organization. She goes, we grew up in a family. All of us played sports. And she said, I grew up as being, I'm accountable to my team. I show up fully ready to play team. Everything is about holding that position and fulfilling her role because her team counted on her. That to me was actually one of those moments where it went green for me, because I was like, whoa, I haven't even looked at it from the perspective of sports and teams. You have what, a family full of sports players in your
Yeah, it's cool that you bring it up like that. And it is because it's always like, oh, I don't feel like it. And it's like, well, then you're letting your team down. And it's always, hey, play for the name on the front, not the name on the back.
Oh,
And
that's
that's,
cool.
yeah.
That's cool.
But it is that accountability piece. Like you fill a role, you fill that position.
Yeah.
There are certain things that all kind of connect together.
Mm-hmm.
It just by being accountable and getting in again, it comes down to getting things done in that side of it, but it is the responsibility of the individual on how it feels.
Yep. And a lot of times what happens, and it happens in such nuanced ways, and this is why accountability becomes a person. When you can make accountability a team member, right? They have a name badge or whatever, just like everybody else. So they are truly a team member, personify it, as you said. It changes the game, because if you slack in any form of accountability, your team slacks that much more, then some, and that much more. So if one-on-ones is a huge piece for me, and we'll probably do a whole other podcast on
Yeah.
one-on-ones. Yeah, but one-on-ones are huge. But let me ask you this. If you have a great intention and you set out, okay, I'm going to start having these weekly meetings, some people call them check-in meetings, whatever you want to call them with your team members, and you set it up at the beginning of the year, we're going to check in, make sure everything goes well. Usually with the clients that I've worked with in the past, until we get it all squared away in accountability, those meetings will slack off over time. Why? Sense of urgency, another meeting coming along, but all of a sudden the boss can't make it because of, and that meeting gets pushed. And all of a sudden that meeting gets easier to get pushed. But guess what you're telling the employee when you push off or cancel meetings for, let's say, other meetings? What are you telling them?
It comes down to you're not important.
Yep.
Is honestly the message that I got from
And
it.
their growth isn't important.
Right.
The number one meeting I will tell you that gets moved are one-on-one meetings.
You're less important because you're less important than this other fire or urgency that has come up.
Yep.
That then translates into, almost a cascading waterfall
Yep.
effect of one week to week, the one-on-one gets moved to the feelings of the person that's constantly getting moved around.
Yep. Yep. And so when you set one-on-one meetings, weekly meetings, check-in meetings, touch-base meetings, a true effective one-on-one literally should be able to be done 15, 20 minutes tops and be a well-oiled machine. These
We're gonna have to,
meetings, we'll
yeah,
get into it. Yeah.
yeah.
And it can be when you apply a system that is tried and true and works. And what we've put together works, because it's not about adding more time to the platter. It is not about and then you're going to cancel the meeting. If you know going in, oh, this meeting is going to take an hour or an hour and a half, but I've got to get over here to this, then what's most important gets canceled. And then the next thing you know, your team is disengaged, or they're not performing, they're not getting it done. How many leaders out there, in all honesty, had this goal set, and 6 months in, we're off on the goal? We're under. We're not meeting it.
Yeah.
We pull everybody together, give everybody the shot in the arm. Let's go do it. Let's hit it. And then the next thing you know, right? The momentum goes up and down, up and down. True one-on-ones are designed to keep that momentum at a consistent moving up. And yeah, it's powerful when they're working. But speaking of accountability, go there really quick though. If you cancel, guess what you are teaching your team that they can count on you for?
To cancel.
To cancel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's right. Any habit any action that you do over and over again becomes a habit, right? Whether it's a thought pattern, an emotion, or a feeling that comes up, or an action that constantly becomes a habit. And I think that's where people start to count on you canceling.
Yep.
And actually, I had a CEO like that where he constantly moved our one-on-one around. And he was actually one of them that actually emphasized the whole important, urgent versus not important, non-urgent quadrant. And what I'm hearing now is obviously the accountability side, just even for those one-on-ones, is this is not urgent, but it is important and should not move simply because of, one, the way it makes people feel, two, that importance then trickles down through your entire team, right? Once you start moving those one-on-ones, you lose that accountability to yourself and to the success of that other person.
One of the things that we work off of, you are so on it, because one of the things that we work on at Cultural Alignment Solutions over and over and over is, what are your non-negotiables? What are those items that only you can do? Nobody else can do them for you, right? And then the other tier is, what are those items that you do, but someone else can do? So there's three things when you're setting up a workflow. Non-negotiables, we call them big A items, little A items. All right. Those agenda items. That's what we call them for just ease. Here's what happens. A one-on-one gets treated as if it's a little A item, when in reality, a one-on-one should be a non-negotiable. And the reason why it should be a non-negotiable is because you want that employee doing their job as non-negotiables and big A's. So if you're treating it as a little A, you're telling them it's not important. And that's it. It's that simple. It truly is that simple. And that's why, and that's one of the sayings that I say, that is, if your team is not doing it, it's because they're not seeing it. If you give yourself permission to change things around, to not be as accountable, right? To maybe show up a little bit late because you've earned that right. My title has earned that right. And it's understandable that you think that, but in accountability, if you are accountable to them for their success, then what are you telling them if you slack?
Well, and that's what I like when you say it. Say, hey, if my team's not doing it, where am I not being it?
Yep. And that's it. And you have to really get honest with that all the time. Is it cyclical, right? Do things have to be cyclical sometimes? Sure. And it's understandable. You are the leader. There are some times that things call away, but you also call the shots with your team. How powerful is it if someone's wanting your time, booking your time, and you're honoring the growth of the team that ultimately affects that other team that's asking you to come visit, that you would be held accountable for if you didn't hit your numbers?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. So, and that also tells me that if there is that kind of discord, there might need to also be an opportunity of going, hey, we need to redefine what a culture of accountability looks like. And that's what I'm going after. What does a culture of accountability look like? To where the director's boss can be told by the director, hey, I do want to have this meeting with you, but I cannot do it that particular hour because I have a one-on-one. So much so that the upper boss goes, whoa, you're not missing a one-on-one, because they value that.
That, I think, is the key. The whole top to bottom, everybody believing that, because that truly is the culture that's instilled there, not just, hey, this one leader that's how they run it.
Yep. And that is the basis of everything that we come from, because truly the lifeblood of your organization, if it is a meaning sales, a commodity, we're having to sell this particular item, and this is what puts money in the pockets of our employees, and which I don't know a whole lot of organizations that aren't selling something. But anyway, If that truly is your structure, there has to be an understanding of accountability around that. Has to be.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna stop it there for today's episode. Debbie and Dan signing off for today. Next week, we're going to be back. We're going to dive deeper into this whole realm of accountability. And I'm going to drill in on this whole one-on-one concept because I've been in lots of different organizations where they try and do it. They kind of half-ass it and get through it. And there's a ton that I know are not making one-on-ones a priority, and they should be, and that creates discord or the lack of accountability in them. So, Debbie, thank you so much. Looking forward to the next one.
All right. We'll see ya.